We're not dealing with logical people. And I don't think we're talking enough about Iran and its links elsewhere, because he's got clear links into Vladimir Putin and Russia. He's got clear links into North Korea, and what Kim Jong-un is doing. We need to be very cognizant of everything that they're doing.
News today that the UK has imposed fresh sanctions on some senior Iranian officials. 7 people, including some top Iranian officials and one organisation, are being hit by the new sanctions, which include asset freezes and some UK travel bans. The States has vowed a very consequential response to a drone attack on a base in Jordan that killed 3 American troops, and President Biden has blamed Iran-backed militants. Philip Ingram is a former senior British military intelligence and security officer. Philip, first of all, can we just talk about this Iranian denial? Is it
Mhm.
worth anything? They say they had nothing to do with it.
No, it's not worth anything at all. The groups that are potentially behind this are 100% trained, equipped, and overseen by the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, and in particular the Quds Force element of that. So Iran trying to say that it didn't direct them, it didn't supply them, it wasn't involved in it in any way, shape, or form, is just disinformation.
And the fact that this happened on a base in Jordan, but very close to the Syrian border, this American base, is it a base that we knew existed?
It's a base that the Jordanians deny is there. The Americans have kept very quiet about, and its exact role is something that is a matter of debate in the public sphere. And the real answer is nobody knows unless you're actually working out of there. It's part of the wider U.S. presence that is helping to deal with the rump of ISIS. And other terror groups that are continuing to destabilize Syria and Iraq. And it's been there for a while dealing with that. The US have suffered a large number of attacks since the 7th of October. There's been about 150 attacks, I think, against US interests in Syria, in Iraq, and now this one just across the border in Jordan.
Right. So we know the Americans are going to respond. Will that be with British cooperation, do you think? And when do you think it's likely to happen?
Well, I think on this one, because there's US troops have been killed, I think we've started to see the British response with the increase in sanctions, and there will be international diplomatic support. So, from a diplomatic perspective, America's not alone. But I think militarily, America will decide what is an appropriate military response for this. If it decides that a military response is appropriate, and it will do it probably unilaterally.
And what about we had initially the one-off so-called attack on the Houthis. It turned out not to be a one-off. There's every chance there might be more attacks by the Houthis on shipping in the Red Sea, and therefore, I assume, another response from certainly the States and possibly the UK as well. How do you see this ending?
Well, the Houthis don't realize that the international coalition and it was US and UK aircraft and US missiles that attacked the bases. The Americans have been attacking Houthi missiles that they see being put into launch sites on a fairly regular basis. It's just like swatting a mosquito. Another mosquito comes into the room and it gets swatted. The capability exists there to do that, and you can keep swatting those mosquitoes as long as they keep coming in. So, from dealing with the Houthis from the perspective that we've done at the moment, that can virtually keep going ad infinitum until they realize that they're going to lose more military capability than they're going to the effect that they're going to have on international shipping in the Red Sea. And it's important that what doesn't happen is we don't get the escalation that's in there. We could go in and carry out overwhelming attacks on them, but that would lead to greater escalation. And that's something that the international community and the International Maritime Task Force of 12 different nations is being very careful not to do.
Yes, I mean, but do you think sometimes we're in danger of talking about Iran, talking it up in a way, playing into the Iranian government's hands, assuming that they're much more powerful than they actually are? Because the people of Iran don't support them, do they?
Well, the people of Iran don't support them, and in reality there are two governments in Iran. There's the political government, and then there's the religious government. And it's the Grand Ayatollah Al Khamenei who controls the Iranian Revolutionary Guard force, Guard Corps, and it's him that is directing a lot of this. Now, they're suffering a lot of internal problems, and we're seeing protests inside Iran and everything else. One way that nation states try and take the focus away from internal issues is they externalize and try and bring people together on a common cause. And the common cause is an anti-American cause and an anti-Israeli cause. And we can see that happening here. That makes it extremely dangerous. We're not dealing with logical people. And I don't think we're talking enough about Iran and its links elsewhere, because he's got clear links into Vladimir Putin and Russia. He's got clear links into North Korea. And what Kim Jong-un is doing. We need to be very cognizant of everything that they're doing.
Right, okay. And of course, we should bear in mind that there are elections in Iran, aren't there, quite soon. And I understand the regime are worried that a lot of people, because they're not free elections, a lot of people just won't bother taking part.
Well, exactly, and it's part of there's I think across the globe this year there's 60 different elections, and all of them will be influenced in one way or the other. So when we keep hearing statements from global leaders or the leaders of different countries around the globe, we have to recognize that a lot of what they're doing, what they're saying, and all the rest of it is focused on their domestic audience first and foremost. What Vladimir Putin's saying is focused on his domestic audience because he's got elections coming up. What Donald Trump is saying is focused on his domestic voters. What the Grand Ayatollah's saying is focused on domestic politics, almost more than what's happening outside. When we listen to and hear these comments from an external perspective, it's very easy to jump to the wrong conclusions as to what's being said.
Yes, okay, so it's a sort of perfect geopolitical storm, I guess.
Oh, yes.
In the short term, very briefly if you can, things might calm down if there is a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas.
Well, in the short term, they might calm down, but Hamas needs to remove itself completely, and then we've got all of these other Iranian-backed groups. There isn't a short-term solution, I'm afraid, for what is going on, and that is worrying.